Good morning. My name is Zainab Al-Suwaij. I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of the American Islamic Congress. It's great to be with you today, and I would like to thank IOM for the great invitation. I'm glad I was here last year, and I'm glad to be back again. I guess I did a good job last year, so that's why I'm getting re-invited. uh, I am the head of the American Islamic Congress, and it's an organization that I co-founded in 2001, right after 9/11. I come originally from Iraq. I grew up with violence, violence and surviving several wars. And myself, I was part of the uprising against Saddam Hussein in 1991. And at an early age, I was subject to violence. As you know, we see the wars throughout the years. And then, I was a teenager when the uprising happened, and I joined. Being 18 years old, left injured and hiding for a few months until I managed to leave Iraq and came here to the U.S. And then 9/11 happened, and that's another turning point of my life when I saw another form of violence that's been taking place here, and that's brought back a lot of memories. As these kind of things happened throughout my early life. I was, the day 9/11 happened, I was teaching at Yale University, and I felt, after a while that there are so many great professors and people who can teach, but I have other mission that I need to dedicate my time to. So I left that. I left the university, and then I started the American Islamic Congress to work on human rights, civil rights issues, as well as preventing violence. And a few years ago, I had the honor of meeting with Dr. Gary Slutkin and worked on a program to prevent violence in Iraq. So I went back to Iraq, worked on so many projects, but I felt this project on reducing violence between different tribes, different militias, and political parties was a key to prevent or minimize violence in the most heated areas. And started this project and helped reduce violence in the areas we were working in about 42%. And as we know that violence is contagious and can spread easily between people and nations that they are, subject to violence. Not necessarily they are part of it, but also preserving it and seeing it. So it helped a lot in accelerate the violence in these areas, and so many people are being subject to that. Many lives have been lost. And then from Iraq, we started another program in Syria last year to help people also in that matter. But our work did not stop right there. There are many different fronts. We can see violence on the ground, but also we can see violence on the net. We can see social media and how much they have a huge effect, especially on the young generation, in spreading violence through videos, through sometimes cartoons, even the cartoons that our kids watch on TV. It's full of violence and killing. And I can only imagine, as a person who grew up with seeing violence and lived through a very difficult period, our kids are not, mainly here in the US, they are not really subject to a war or this or that, but they are seeing all of these things through video games and through Facebook and Tumblr and all of these other social media outlets. And looking into these kind of activities, and especially after we seen the Arab Spring and how much the social media has a huge effect in accelerating and changing governments, and all of these feelings of excitement from these people and being part of a revolution and being able to change dictators and regain new governments and this and that, give them that feeling of empowerment. Certainly, that was the same feeling I felt when I was 18 years old fighting in the street. And these kind of things keeps changing and accelerating, and it does not stop because it makes you feel good, and then you say, okay, well, I can do better, I can do more, I can do more. And this is the same thing that's been happening now, and I see so many kids are being hooked into that, and youth, and certainly it has a huge bad effect on our society. Not only that, recruitment of young people to go and fight with radical groups all over the world. And recently we've seen so many scenarios of people joining that, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and so on and so forth. And so many of them, they've been recruited through social media and people talking to them through the internet. Just 2 days ago, I get one of these emails on my Facebook, from somewhere in Europe. A guy sent me a link to one of these scary sheikh or religious leaders who are calling for so-called jihad. I was furious, and I'm like, why he's sending me this? And it could be my son, could be my daughter, but people are not most of the time aware of these things. Recently, I was in Tunisia, and as we work on programs with youth social entrepreneurs to help them change the negative, to improve their society, basically, and being social entrepreneurs and prevent them from joining any radical groups. I have a friend of mine who's a journalist, was going to meet with two young women who've been recruited through the internet or the social media to go fight with ISIS in Syria. These two girls, one of them is 19 and the other one is 21. She said, after she was meeting with me, she said, I want to go and see them, interview them. I said, I'll go with you. And I went and met with these two young women. And the story goes is that they've been recruited through the internet. And yes, there are people, an agent that they help them go throughout the country and went to Turkey and then from Turkey to Syria. And then when they get there, they found that, all of the stuff that they've been telling them about and the glory of being martyrs and this and that is not. They use them as sex slaves. And then they came back. One of them is almost crazy, and the other one is, they have all of these kind of mental and psychological issues because of what they have seen and they have witnessed. And when I asked them, they said, well, Facebook. And that was the main way that they have been recruited, and they have been taken to other parts of the region to, basically for something, and then they end up with something totally different. These kind of activities, these kind of things, certainly create a huge danger that most of the time we are not really aware of. And this is not happening only in the Arab countries or the Arab region. It's happening here in the US, in Europe. 2 weeks ago, I was in Europe. The same thing. All over Europe, they are facing similar problem of young people being recruited by the internet to join violence or radical activities in many parts of the world. What we see is just a small glimpse of what's really actually happening on the ground, and these people using social media as a platform. Before, during the days when I was fighting in the street, we didn't have, no one knows about us. We were, by maths, we're sitting at home, we saw people fighting in the street. I said, well, okay, great, we don't want dictators. We want to be free, let's go fight. No one knows about us until now, and maybe 20 years later when I saw the first documentary about it. But nothing really was, cannot talk, there's no internet, no nothing. So these kind of things that created a huge problem for many families, many nations, and also the security of these nations. Not only individuals have been threatened by media, social media that's been used to serve the cause of violence, and also the videos that's been posted there. Has another impact, and certainly seeing it. Sometimes people don't want to watch it or see it, but sometimes it's become really a trend among people to see the killing and the beheading and this and that create a lot of heartening the society. I always compare when I go to countries that's been through violence from the way the kids behave among themselves or in the streets. And you see the difference between the stabilized nations and the nations that's going through turmoil and violence. And the observation that we take from that is how much these childhood it's been disturbed and it's been changed forever. Even though many of them they do not talk about it, but we see it clearly. What can we do to prevent that? How can we use the same method to prevent violence? We recently, as we see the increase of recruitment or violence on social media, we wanted to use the same method, but to preventing violence, also through social media. So we have a program through college campuses, about 80 college campuses around the country, called the Project Noor, which is focused on young leaders from among the students in these college campuses, and we train them on leadership and how to be activists on human rights and civil rights issues. So we said, okay, let's use the same method by how can we create a program to reduce violence. So we create a program called Voices Against Radicalism. And this program, basically, what we do with it is we bring these young students, and each one of them, how can we stop against radicalism or violence all around the world. And this program is flourishing, it's really spreading so fast. Each one of them has her or his own idea on how to stand against violence and radicalism. And this program is actually create a lot of momentum among the student and how they want to improve and how they want to push and how they want to help other people in many different parts of the world who have been subject to violence. I will stop here and thank you very much for your time.